How's it going, fellas? And welcome to the Ultimate Halo Wars 2 Banished Guide. This was made in conjunction with Cars and Cameras, who, according to Halo Warpoint, is one of the top 5 players in the game. So he developed this build, which he calls the Brute build. And this is essentially a framework that you can use for every single Banished leader. So if you've ever struggled playing Halo Wars 2 as Banished, this guide is going to be for you. You can go to the description and find timestamps for where each leader's covered, but this is actually called the Brute build, so it works for all of the leaders who are Brutes, apart from Atriox and, of course, the Elite leaders, so they're going to be covered separately. So the first third of the video is going to be the Brute build as a general sort of idea. Then we talk about Atriox, and then we move on to the Elite leaders, which is the Shipmaster and the Arby. So this covers the entire swath of leaders, as well as talking about the pros and cons of the builds after the game has took place. And we're going to be working through the build in real time as Cars plays, asking him questions and making sure that the build is covered in as much detail as possible. So please do let me know what you think of this down in the comments. Go and give Cars a follow on YouTube because he's got other videos on his own channel. I've linked that in the description. But this is the Ultimate Banished Guide. I hope you enjoy. All right, so here we are in a game. Cars is going to show us the wonderful Cars build, which is appropriate for all of the Banished leaders, apart from the Elite leaders, which is obviously the Shipmaster and, what's his face? Arby.
Atriox.
Oh, and
And
Atriox. And Atriox,
Yep.
that's right.
So it applies to all Brute Banished except for the leader of the Brute Banished.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to be sticking to Kaz's point of view here because that's all that matters. We already know Sean is awful at the game.
And we are going to do... The guide is going to include the Brute Banished except for Atriox, as well as Elite leaders, and then we'll do one for Atriox as well. So we'll do 3 separate guides, essentially, right, Cars?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, since this is Bedrock, you always want to bully UNSC when you can.
Right.
I always send 2 of my starting grunts over to take their power as well as my chopper. And if they try and fight me with any Marines, I can just bring these grunts over to help me. But the basic build is just a typical Gen 3rd, and you open with the chopper.
Is any part of the build reliant on getting this power off the enemy's side, or is that just a bonus?
Well, typically it's a given because they can't really do anything about it as UNSC on this map.
Because of the chop.
Yeah, I mean, they can try and fight you by just funneling in a bunch of Marines, but then you can ignore it and go take their mini base, and it's fine either way.
And by that point, you could have probably picked up the power as well.
Yeah, so here I see another one of his Marines, but I've also got my chopper, and I got his mini here.
Yep.
And I can continue to pick off Marines.
Wow, the way you're
on this
flying
map
around
specifically,
is crazy.
you want to buy a watchtower so you can get eyes on your back mini.
Yep.
Pyman's 4th law.
That is a famous thing on Ed Grinnell Games Incorporated.
Now it should be.
Yeah, Pyman. I remember when Pyman was teaching me a build. He goes, "And just build a sensor tower on here, please, Ed." Then he stole my mini, and it was everyone laughed at me. I'm still kind of salty about it.
But yeah, as you can see, he was only able to get 1 bundle of power, and I'm upgrading an extra pad. You want to typically upgrade 2 extra pads.
Okay.
And I'm getting my own minis while I'm building a raid camp on offense.
So if we
Oh,
were
you're
to
building a raid camp on that mini?
So if we were to compare this to the MAR-BR, the main difference is that you're not building a hero, and the mini that you've got your raid camp on is on the enemy side of the map.
Pretty much, but I'm also building another raid camp on defense.
Okay.
Because if he does just try and ignore what's going on over here and push me, I need to have some suis.
Right. So what's the main difference between like the elite leaders and Trox that makes it so you can't really do this?
Well, with Trox, you want to build your chosen because he's actually good, unlike like a warlord, for instance.
Yeah.
I think the warlord is much more lackluster, whereas the chosen has a lot more utility.
Right.
So you're recommending what's the recommendation with this build? Are you so you got a Rax on my side, you got a Rax on your side. Are you double genning at home?
Yep, now that I have 3 upgraded pads, I'm blowing up one of my supply pads and I'm building a second gen.
Gotcha.
And I'm just supplementing with grunts for nodes and suis for if I eventually get pushed.
And this build also keeps in mind that with none of these leaders, Brute Banished, not Atriox, you don't build your hero. That's kind of the whole point, right? You don't build your hero.
Yeah.
So what's the
Gotcha.
order of... What would you attack first with the units that are being built on his side of the map? So you're going to his mini at the back now because you know it's there, but would you typically go for a gen before you do that, or...
Well, on this map you can see all his units are now in the back of his base and I can start focusing more on his main. I can see that he's building that second gen. It's not upgraded, so it's going to have a bit less health.
Okay. So it's just about moving your units around and making them work more efficiently, depending on what your opponent's doing.
Pretty much. So now I'm also building some turrets on defense because they help you with your leader point progression.
Yep. So we've seen the hero from red here. Is that something we want to deal with, or are we just going to ignore that and try and take out gens?
Yeah, just avoid it. And that's how you want to use Vortex typically. Killing a gen with it is always good.
Yep. And are you pumping those minis off the mini on his side, or is that from the defensive mini?
The Suis are coming from defense.
Okay.
And, or some Suis you can build off this offensive Rax just because these flamers are a bit of an issue.
Right.
And then also you want to steal their nodes whenever you can.
Yep.
Because there's ODST, so that's how you want to use beam to cancel those mines.
Ah, that's clever. I never thought of that. So would this be a problem for you in a normal match? Would you want to be coming back to your main base with all of your units, or would you want to carry on the offensive?
Typically you want to do both if you can.
Right, and that's the whole point of the mini on the enemy side of the map, I guess.
Yeah. So he's managed to kill a generator, which is good for him, but it's not super bad because I do have all these nodes.
Yep.
And the Suis on defense have pretty much negated these ODSTs.
Interesting. And it looks like you've got quite a lot of grunts there as well. You've been pumping those on your main and the minis.
Yep.
You've rebuilt your gen.
Typically, I would also want to have an expo by now, but because he had that hit on me, I wasn't able to.
Okay.
Because Sean is playing so exceptionally well.
Indeed. Sean's bringing out his A game because he knows we're filming a guide right now. It's crazy.
So I'm going to pump a little bit of Ranger now, but I do want to just keep spamming jump pack brutes in the long run.
Okay. So if this went a little bit more in your favor, you would have an expo up by now. Would you be Tech 2? Would you be anywhere near Tech 2 at the 7-minute mark, or is this fairly typical?
Yeah, pretty much. It would only delay me a little bit.
Right.
We're under attack from their infantry.
But he's got all that stuff sitting down by my nodes, so
Yep.
I want to be pumping more Suis because they're far more immediate than Rangers are.
Absolutely.
Rangers take time to do their job.
That Spartan's going to be a problem if it gets vet too. Not that it already isn't a problem.
And you want to wiggle out of Spartan shots. You can
Yeah.
see it's pretty easy to do.
I see you doing it. Might have to put a seizure warning on the screen.
And he just used his slam, so I'm going to Vortex.
Very nice. Very nice.
That
Wow.
was an accident.
Look at that go. Yeah, Sean says it was an accident. Yep. Do we believe him? No, we don't. And what damage did those flamers do? Did they just get one gen, or did they get anything else?
They killed the gen.
Okay.
So now I have Dark Skies queued. I'm just going to start spamming
You have Dark Skies
brutes. Yep.
has captured a power node.
Unbelievable.
Continue to kind of pester with grunts, take the nodes back.
The enemy has captured our power node.
And you've got Sui sort of defending each node.
Augmented extractor upgrade complete.
And you want to send brutes just up to every mini, sometimes just up the sides of the map.
And are you going to transition out of Suis and JPBs once you've got like more of a presence in Tech 2, or?
Not unless I need to, which I don't think I will need to.
All right, okay.
Is under attack.
Because
But
this
yeah,
is
now
fairly
I'm
unusual.
expoing.
Because usually you wouldn't see people build JPBs for this long into a match.
Well, Dark Skies just happens to be very good, especially when you're Decimus.
Yep. Seems to be going very well for you. That's all I'll say.
Jump brutes reporting.
And something I'll add for the
And,
purposes of the video, of course Sean can hear what Kaz is saying as we record this.
Yep.
But Sean is doing his best to play a fairly typical game without knowing exactly what Kaz is doing. We're doing our best to make this look as competitive as it can be, I suppose.
You also want some infantry upgrades when you're going Dark Skies, because, you know, their
From their infantry.
HP bars are already big, but you can make them even bigger, so why not?
Yep, definitely. What percentage increase is it for infantry
I
upgrades?
think infantry 1 is 15, or it's 10% HP, 10% damage.
And that's 10, 20, 30 when you upgrade each one, right?
Jump brute. Leader point.
I believe so.
Okay.
But I've got my Expo now, so I'm going to upgrade that, build my third generator. Whenever you're harassing these minis and they're playing defense on them, you want to jump your brutes away in multiple different directions so that they can't really chase all of them.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to just spam raid camps, because these things are cheap.
Indeed. You need as many JPBs as you can get.
They're kind of like cannon fodder. But yep, there's infantry level 2 queued.
What would you
That's
say is
something you
the
want to shoot for.
what would you say is the biggest risk for this build, other than like heavy infantry with snipers T1?
I mean, that is a big risk. You just have to make sure you're building turrets. You could see that when he pushed me, he did get my generator, so that was good. But because of the turrets, he wasn't able to do much else.
So the
But
main
if-
risk is your main base, not necessarily the units themselves.
Yeah, the units are fine as long as you can micro them appropriately.
Yeah, and
You
rebuild
can
them.
always jump away. Yeah.
Okay. And that's
And-
why it's important to take these minis like you're doing.
Yeah, once you've claimed their own minis, it's kind of very hard for them to get out of this hole, because you're spamming these units from their own side of the map.
Got you. Yeah.
Camp constructed.
And while this has all been going on, please note that he's taken the nodes. This is a very important thing because he's lost a gen twice, and without those, it wouldn't be as effective. And that Spartan's Vet 1 again. That's crazy, Sean.
Leader point earned.
Well, he's not trying to kill it.
Constructed.
Yeah,
I
no,
know,
I'm
but-
just ignore it.
Seems fast. And would you want to prioritize the turrets, or would you just focus on the pads?
Oh, when I'm Desi, I don't care so much about the turrets because my Siphon can out-heal them for the most part.
Oh, okay. And is that on all units or just the Dark Sky JPBs?
Dark Skies does particularly well,
Okay.
so I'd say mainly for them.
Mini base complete.
And then, yeah, I'm just waiting to lose pop so I can drop in my big guy.
Yep. Big Daddy Desi.
Is under attack. Enemy assault.
And that was a
I also
Siphon.
like to go, yeah, active Siphon. Sometimes it's hard to find uses for it, but
Augmented harvester.
it's generally pretty good.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, now is when I can deal a bit better with the hero because I have my own.
Hammer pull.
And once I've got 80 pop of infantry level 2, that's when I would put up my War Council and get reinforcements. But otherwise, I would prioritize infantry upgrades.
Okay. So, if this went on a little longer, say it was like a 25-minute game or something, would you ever transition out of JPBs, or would you just keep literally what was going on for the last 2 minutes as long as you can until you kill the base?
If he got a mass of warthogs, I would sprinkle in hunters and engineers.
Right.
But otherwise, you can just keep spamming jump pack brutes.
Yep.
And what about leaders that don't have JPBs? So in your list, you have Yap, for example, right, with Grunt Riders. Are you kind of doing the same thing, or is it different?
You can't really do the same thing with Yap because Punch Harder is only a damage upgrade. It doesn't actually give them another squad member.
Mhm.
So with Yap, mainly what you're doing is Marauder spam, and then you get your heroes out on Tech 2, that is, and then you can add some engineers for sustainability.
So that's a little bit confusing to me because this build is supposed to apply to Yap, or like to apply to anyone who's not an elite or not Trox, right? So the raid camp on the mini steel, the raid camp on the main with Yap, would that
Yeah,
not?
that's still the same thing. It's just
Okay.
on Tech 2 instead of continuing to spam the
Mm-hmm.
building killers, you just go Marauders, which is also an option with basically any Banished because
Right.
Marauders are just a good option.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
then, Tech 1 with all of these leaders, you're doing double racks. Ideally, one on a mini and one at home. What are some of the other caveats across these leaders? So Colony, Desi, Pav, Vori, and Yap are the leaders in question. What are some other caveats? Like, for example, Yap and Vori don't have Suis, right? How would you address that? Colony and Yap don't have JPBs, right? What would you do differently when you don't have JPBs? And just talking Tech 1 right now.
Yeah. Basically, with Colony, you want to always be pumping skits, and that kind of helps supplement the lack of mobility that Goliaths have. They can't jump around, so it's a bit harder to do what I did to you there, where I'm pushing your main after I've forced you behind your base.
Mm-hmm.
But the skits kind of give you a bit more headbutting power because you just have so much more health and damage. For
Gotcha. And
Yap,
you're putting the skits on the monkeys.
yeah.
On the monkeys.
Also, I think
Mhm.
choppers are a much better option when you're Colony because of the skit choppers.
And would the skits sort of
Right.
replace the lack of Suis?
Yeah, you can still build
Well,
Suis
Colony
for
has
sure.
Suis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So the lack of Suis, what would replace the lack of Suis? Chops or something else?
Or Vori and Yap.
With Yap Yap, you can just do methane wagons, and infantry balls aren't as big of an issue because basically heavy grunts and methane wagons and brute riders can just fight them head on and win most of the time. Especially if they try and hijack you, you want to make sure you have at least 2 methane wagons so you can still have that
Against
debuff.
Spartan leaders.
Yep, and then
Yep.
you can combo the methane wagon Y ability with a beam, and that will kill basically any Tech 1 hero.
Gotcha.
And
And with
with
methane wagons, you're
Vortis,
getting basically a 40% swing, right? 20% debuff, 20% buff.
Yeah.
yep. So
Gotcha.
it's pretty big. I'd recommend them most of the time,
Okay.
especially if you're looking for a head-on engagement.
Gotcha. And then
With
Vori.
Vortis, you can sprinkle in some Grenadiers. They don't really have the same effect as Suis. I tend to favor Suis to Grenadiers just because of how immediate they are.
Mm-hmm.
But Grenadiers do the same job pretty much.
Would you
just
be
want to make sure.
Would you be using combat spoils along with Voridus? Would that be a key part of the build, or would
Pretty much,
it
yeah.
not really matter?
I don't think going mine with Vortis is good. It's a good mine. It's just not combat
Not better
spoils.
than combat spoils, yeah. Fair.
Yeah. So with Trox, it's a bit different because you actually have a Tech 1 hero that's worth something.
Mhm.
So you want to do a Marbiar build, which if you don't know what that is, I have a video on it, but I'll explain it as I go. The Chosen's really good just because you have a good bit of range, you've got a lot of speed, you can get away from pretty much any bad engagement as long as you're not walking into a bunch of snipers.
Or you're not being stunned.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
But even then, later on, you have teleport, so
Right.
that's also good.
And
I'm gonna do
how
the
different
exact same.
does the hero
starting
affect your
pathing.
build? Because it's quite expensive.
Basically, you're going Gen 2nd instead of 3rd, and you're not going to be upgrading as many pads early on. That kind of gets delayed a little bit because you need to be able to upgrade your hero and all that.
So this is very similar to Marbr, but I'm pretty sure Marbr you go pad rather than pad gen.
No, Marbr is pad gen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's just to make sure you have enough power to upgrade your hero.
Oh, I've been doing Marbr incorrect all these years, Sean.
Harvester upgrade
No, you haven't.
I have.
But yep, I'm doing the same pathing, making sure
Sorry,
I'm...
do you try to steal a mini with Trox as well, or is it less worthwhile?
You can, but I would say it's not quite as important, because you're going to be expoing pretty early.
Hmm. And you know, this is another one of the Ed Greenell Games Team Respawn meme, which is here. Ed, can you say it for us? Let's see if Ed knows.
I
I'm
don't know
talking
where you're
about.
going with this one, Sean. I'll be
Oh,
honest.
oh, really? This is crazy. Countermeasures or fortifications?
Oh my god.
Fortifications, for sure. I'd say countermeasures is pretty much exclusively a frontier thing.
Interesting.
Why is that? Yeah.
Just because how small and aggressive the map is, you want to... I guess it's also not quite as feasible to be buying a bunch of bases, because there are also a lot of minis. So if they're pumping building killers off of mini bases and you're trying to build bases, that's not going to work out for you.
So it looks like something that's happened to you here is that you've not been able to get access to a mini on their side. Can you easily just replace that one with a second mini on your side, or is that a big problem for the build?
Oh, it's no problem. I mean, I'm just buying my own minis at a normal time, and then once I have my second generator, I'm gonna queue an expo. Also, of course, you want to make sure you have Fort 2 before you queue the expo.
Yeah.
But it's also good that I've been able to kill so many of his marines.
Yeah. And that's
Well,
with
that's
the
only
chops
because
and
I'm a
grunts.
noob.
Indeed, Sean. Indeed. And Sean was even suggesting I should play for this gameplay.
harvester constructed.
So now that my hero's out, I'm just gonna make a beeline for nodes. That's of course what you want to do. You rack up veterancy, you get that passive income.
Harvester
So that's serving the purpose of the grunts. That's what they were doing. They were taking nodes with the original build. So with this one, you're doing that with the hero.
Pretty much.
Okay.
You do actually get your nodes a bit quicker when you have a hero.
Right. Yep. And so the JPBs served the purpose of killing pads broadly in the previous build. So what purpose does the hero serve in this build? Like
Pretty much just to
mostly.
clean up their infantry. Also good against other heroes.
Right.
So you also want to be building turrets pretty early when you're Trox because of how cheap they are.
Yep. Yep.
So did you go Fort 1 and 2?
Yep, you go Fort 2, and once you have Fort 2 and a second gen, that's when you start building your expo.
So would you say that the hero is more important than the JPBs with this build?
I'd say so. I mean, they're both pretty important, but the Chosen is invaluable. Like, you don't want to lose him.
Yeah. And it looks like Sean has gone battle hardened. Is that what you've done, Sean?
augmented harvester
No.
upgrade complete.
Really? You've got a vet
Battle
one
hardened
spam.
is a meme. Yeah, because I've taken 4 nodes.
Oh, okay, okay. So now that you've seen Red has got snipers and a hero, would you be still making JPB plays, or would you want to transition out of JPBs?
It's still doable. It's just you have to be pretty cautious. You can't just be sending your units across the map.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, as you can see, I'm just upgrading my expo. I'm going to build more turrets. And I'm gonna get 2 racks up so that I can spam Sui if he tries to push me.
Camp constructed.
What would be your main focus, the hero or the snipers, or is it a case where you just avoid it and do what you're doing with the build?
I would focus on trying to kill the snipers, but try and make them come to you.
Okay. And do we want to
So
be
I'm-
reclaiming these nodes, or are we going to try and work around them?
Right now you try and work around them because the snipers are too much of a threat.
Yeah.
Turret constructed.
And,
How far away
I mean,
is
I'm,
TP?
I've got my 3rd point, and I'm about halfway to 4th.
Could that play a role in dealing with the snipers, potentially?
Yeah, of course, just being able to teleport out, always good.
Or teleport the Suis is what I was thinking, on top of the units.
Not so much that. I think you should hold teleport for getting your chosen out.
Okay.
But yeah, you can see he's pushing me now. I'm just keeping my chosen at a distance because I don't want him to die to snipers. I can
Yeah.
throw my Suis into the mines so that they don't blow up my base.
Yep.
And I'm going Tech 2, so I'm going to get my War Council back so I can upgrade my hero immediately.
And the Suis are they prioritizing the Spartan here? I can't really tell what the Suis are doing as they come out.
Yeah, they're just doing whatever seems best, and seeing as the hero's low, I want to make sure the shields don't come back up.
Right.
So
You
now
gonna-
I do have teleport, so I don't care about diving in with my chosen.
Okay. So the hero got away, and I suppose the snipers are going to seal the deal on its retreat there, but that's not a problem because you didn't really lose anything of value.
Yep. So I can just keep throwing Suis at him.
Very nice. How many snipes has he killed for you there, Sean?
I don't want to talk about it.
No, I mean it's interesting for the build because that looked like you had a fairly significant push on the expo, but only into, what was it, like 4 or 5 Suis that came out and then a turret or 2. It's just a demonstration of how easy it is to...
Did you do that teleport?
Yep,
Yep.
there it goes. And he's kept his chosen. That's how important the TPs are. Even a mind stun can't kill this boy. That's crazy. You're going to keep you guys on the nodes. You're still pumping. Oh, no, you're not pumping from the raid camp. So what are you transitioning into here now?
Oh, you can see on my main, I'm putting up a double garage.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna go for Marauders, since I know he's pumped so many snipers. He's been in Tech 1 for a while.
Now, of course, Sean's just heard you say that, but more typically, would Marauders be the play against a cutter? Because I'm thinking he's obviously got the Cyclops drop. He's got ODSTs that can stun them. Seems
Yeah, that's
a little
not
potential problem.
so much. That's not so much of a problem because you have a chosen, which just eats counter units for breakfast. So.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. And now I'm getting both Fortify level 1 and 2, and I can start buying more bases now that I've secured this one.
You also noted that I did not get the Cyclops shop. I have
Marauder under fire from
the other thing
enemy
instead.
troops.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the turret drop. I should have noticed that. But it wouldn't even matter if you did have the Cyclops drop. It's not a consideration because of the chosen. That's interesting. I would have always thought, we're going against a cutter. You know, T2 vehicles are going to be a bit rough, but it's more the hero that you need to worry about. And that was a pre-split there. Did you split the Spartan stun before it happened there with the hero?
Yeah, I went ahead and I split my chosen from my Marauders because I didn't want him to be able to hit both.
Yeah.
My
Was that
bulwark was a little bit late.
But yeah, I was going to say that bulwark was slightly late.
The enemy has trained a sniper on me.
And now the Marauders are going to serve a similar purpose to the, oh dear, to the Suis, to the JPBs. Sorry.
Pretty much.
That was a close one. Deary me. Those snipers with Raid 2 are quite troublesome, aren't they?
Yeah, but they can't really push my base. And now I'm going Tech 3, and once I have this Tech 3 chosen, not gonna have a check.
Yeah. So the entire build hinges around the Chosen. That's why it's different to the original Brute build.
Yeah, pretty much.
And there is going to be no caveats because the answer to all of them is the Chosen.
Yep, just the Chosen.
That's crazy. It's mad what a big difference just one good unit can make, you know?
Yeah, I think Trirax is probably the best Brute Banished, in my opinion.
I'd go with that. If it's not the Chosen, it's the
people-
Bulwark, it's the Beam, it's the Mines.
Yeah.
He's got so many good directions you can go with him.
Fort is also huge. Like, Trirax doesn't have an amazing 5th point, but I think it's okay because of just how good Fort is.
Yeah. So how much of an investment would you want to be looking to make on bases on their side of the map versus your army? Can you juggle both of them, or?
As long as you have somewhat of a presence, I think building bases is good, especially once you have Fort level 2, just for how tanky they are.
Yeah. And I've noticed you've not put a shield on your Expo. Is there thinking behind that? I mean, I know there is, but what is the thinking?
Yeah, it's just that I don't feel I need one. Like, I have a pretty substantial Marauder army here. I've got Fort level 2, I've got Engineers. So, I'm pretty confident in just using my turrets to defend for the most part.
So, are you waiting for a critical mass of Marauder here, or are you just sort of biding your time?
I'm
with
just waiting for
scouts?
thick hide here.
Okay. So
And,
what
yeah.
I've noticed that's interesting about this is that you didn't really manage to get anything done with JPBs. Is that because of the snipers?
Pretty much, and just because I didn't get a mini steal.
Right, yeah.
It's a lot easier to play with jump pack brutes when you get that mini steal. You can distract them and then kind of split them around the map better. But
Yeah.
Trirax doesn't really need to do that. He can just kind of get this big mass up and then run at you.
So Sean, now that you know what Kaz is doing, what do you think would be a typical build that the Marauders would be going against now? Are you trying to reflect that in your game right now?
Kind of. I mean, I didn't think he would push my main. I'll tell you that much.
Interesting. So what is the biggest risk to Marauders in the current situation? Is it Siege, is it Air, or is it the Hero?
I don't think any of these are really that big of a risk because, like I said, the Chosen just eats Cyclops for breakfast. You can see they're not really that big of an issue.
And they're getting slowed from the Marauders as well, which is
Yeah.
an added bonus.
And also because these Marauders are pretty cheap, I have enough to just put Nearad on his base. And it's completely fine, even if I were to lose all these Marauders, as long as I strip everything on his base, it's good for me, because I can repop pretty quickly.
Yeah, and cheaply. Since you've had the upgrades cooking on the armory, have you also been getting advanced logistics to make this army come out faster, or is that not really?
No, I wouldn't recommend getting that this early into the game.
Okay. And you're always making sure to pop your NG bubbles as part of this. That's like a default position for all Banished builds.
Yeah, for sure.
This is essentially a showcase of how good the Chosen is. Everyone watching.
No, this is a showcase of how good Cars is.
And the Chosen. I mean, come on. Got to give him some credit. The guy there with his brute shot. I mean, Sean even heard what Kaz was doing, and he still couldn't beat
Well,
him. So
yeah,
that's,
I'll be honest. I mean, I upgraded and put up more turrets on my Expo because I thought for sure he would hit my Expo, but
there you go. There you go.
I got
So-
bamboozled by Cars.
Is there a thinking behind that, Kaz? Did you sort of go for his main because that's where most of his eco will be, or is it not important
It
to go
just
for an
seemed
expo?
open. I had this grunt in his garrison the whole game, and I didn't see an army there, so I just went for it.
And you didn't see turrets. You saw one unupgraded turret.
Yeah. So it's just about looking for openings, regardless of what you've got in your unit comp.
Pretty much. I mean, vision is OP. If you can get in those garrisons, you want to do that.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I will ask is, when we were talking about the caveats for the last build, you were saying that you would mix in hunters if they went mass hogs. Would there be a scenario where you would mix in reavers if they somehow got hornets out, or banshee if it was a banished leader?
Yeah, you always want to be building the counter to what they're building. I'm not always. If they have a significant amount, I'd say. That's
Yeah.
what you want to do.
Enemy player has been eliminated.
Well, there you
And
have
then,
it.
what is so then? Are we done with the game? Because I have a bunch of questions now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead with the questions.
Okay, so what is the build order with Trox? I have to assume that you double genned because you didn't have all too many units. You had your Trox. I saw some grunts, some suis, a chop here or there, but I didn't see like much in the way of power hungry units.
Yeah, it was just Hero 5th. Got my 2nd gen, got an Expo, went double racks on it, went grunts and suis. Just kind of waited for you to push into me. And then into Marauders, get the fort upgrades, and then start building more bases.
So
And
did
then
you go pad
you wanna
gen,
get
pad
the-
armory,
Yes.
and then you blew up the armory when the Chosen was out for a 2nd gen?
Yep,
Okay, so classic MarBR build.
exactly.
What did you build out of the racks other than, did you only build suis or did you build a couple of JPBs as well?
Just suis.
And that was 'cause of the
if you're gonna,
snipes.
yeah, if you're gonna try to push me with infantry, I can negate that with a double pump of suis.
Okay. And I would think that if we're talking caveats like UNSC versus Banished, UNSC has a lot more tools for anti-infantry T1, right? Banished has I guess chops and suis, but UNSC has snipers and flamers. So if it was Banished, would you have built a couple of JPBs as well?
Probably, because I think generally jump pack brutes are very good against Banished on Tech 1, because I don't know, suis just tend to get stopped by choppers so well.
Okay. And then as far as T2 goes, you said you put up double racks to build, I assume, a couple of rangers, maybe hunters if I was like forge and building vehicles.
Oh yeah, I actually also upgraded my Expo on Tech 1 and made sure I got my 3rd gen on Tech 1. That's big.
I see.
Because you want to get a quick Tech 3 for that Tech 3 Chosen.
So you're basically skipping Tech 2.
Yeah, you're not really spending all that much power on Tech 2 besides
Mhm.
building a couple more bases, getting Fortify, that kind of thing.
Which is all very cheap for Trox.
Yep.
Did you switch those? Because you said you went double racks into Tech 2. Did you switch those racks for garage afterwards, or did you also put up garages at the same time?
I put up 2 garage on my main, and I blew up one of my raid camps, but I kept pumping some Sui because you stayed on infantry. So
Okay.
they're
So
still
even in
gonna have
Tech
some
2
utility.
you were building suis, which makes sense against a cutter.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. What about T3? Are we just talking? So T3 Atriox Hero, of course, and then are we just talking Wraith Reaver standard?
Yeah, or like what I did there, you can stay on Thick Hide for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And if the game goes on long enough to where you got like a big 120 pop army, I'd recommend Banshees for sure with Trox, because I'd say he has the best Banshees in the game, mainly just because of Dying Breath.
Gotcha. And then as far as leader power pickups go, what are the pros and cons of going? Because so I think all of his first 4 leader powers are good. So the first 2 points are kind of difficult to pick, right? You've got countermeasures, fort 1 and 2, plasma mines, as well as dying breath. So can you provide some insight as to why you would usually just go fort?
Fort just lets you get the Expo for so cheap, and it scales really well later into the game.
Mhm.
Whereas CM is good, but a lot of the time you're not going to spend the whole game spamming Dark Skies like you would with Desi.
Right.
You can, it's just you're not going to stay on them for the entirety of the game. And with Plasma Mines, those are also good. It's just that I think Fort 2 is a bit too good to pass up on. And
Gotcha.
with Dying Breath, I wouldn't get that so early because most of its utility comes from using it on like a huge pop army. Like I said with the 120 pop Banshee or something like that.
Right. Or your 120 pop Wraith Reaver would be really good as well.
Yeah.
And the Marauders.
I mean, it's good on anything. It's just it's
Gotcha.
better the more units it's used on.
Right.
And then is third point, fourth point almost always Bulwark and teleport?
Yep. And then fifth point is usually beam.
Gotcha.
You don't have to go bulwark on third point if you're playing against a leader that doesn't have a nuke power. Like if you're playing against Anders or something.
Mhm.
You can always double back for countermeasures if you want to go into dark skies. Or
Plasma
even if you
Mines.
want to, yeah, really take your pick because there are a lot of good options.
Gotcha. Anything specific for map specific plays for Atriox?
Just like I said with Frontier, you can still do this build, but generally going CM, PM, countermeasures, plasma mines is better on that map for just how small and aggressive it is.
Gotcha. So then would you say for small maps in general, so like would that apply to Mirage as well?
You can. I think doing the fort build is probably still a bit better on Mirage because a lot of those bases are spaced out pretty well. Like if you
Mhm.
buy both bases on each side of the map, it's going to be hard for them to deny both.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
What is the general couple of builds that would apply to both elites?
Either Gen 3rd and Gen 5th and just tech, or a standard Gen 3rd into Ghosts.
Gotcha. So that's the general way to play T1,
Yeah,
depending on the map size.
pretty much.
So this build is more sort of tailored towards the maps, and you're going to change based on what map it is.
Harvester constructed.
Whereas the previous two builds were sort of, there's a core strategy, and it doesn't really matter what the map is,
Ghost.
unless you
Yeah,
can't
they
take
were
a
a bit
mini.
more universal.
Yeah.
Well, I would say even with RB and Chip, you can be universal with it, but they are very flexible at the same time, right? Because
Yeah.
you could just say ghosts all day, every day,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah, if you were to play one way, I would recommend doing it the Ghost way. Not trying to tech on like Frontier. You're gonna die if you do that.
Right.
So what's the main difference between ghosts that make them viable, and why couldn't you just say to people, oh yeah, do that but with
Power
choppers?
extractor constructed.
Ghosts have shields, so they're just a bit better.
Right. And
Ghosts
you
are
can
the
kill a lot
most
of infantry
OP
with them.
scout units in the game. Yeah.
So the thinking behind the build is
I'm under attack.
essentially the same. You're going to be sending a scout to their side of the map. You're going to be getting power. You're going to take your mini. Are we going for a mini steal here to pump ghosts, or are we just doing this on home
No,
base?
I'd say generally with elites you want to buy a little bit more defensively.
Okay. Is that
So,
because
because
ghosts are expensive?
Extractor upgrade complete.
I'd say more so because
Mini base
the
complete.
your building killers can't
Harvester
really
constructed.
they can't jump, so that's
Right.
pretty
yeah.
big.
And we are building killers here.
If you want to, but generally you just do ghosts and suis if they go infantry.
Okay. And what are we doing for base damage to
Harvester
take them out of the game?
Well, if you want to end the game on Tech 1, if you just have like 80 pop of Ghost, that works just fine, but
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. And at what point do you go ghost shielding? Like, how many ghosts would you want before you make that investment?
oh, I've got mine already queued, actually.
Okay,
So just whenever you have the power to.
Constructed.
interesting. So that's basically
base
saying you
complete.
don't make ghosts unless you've got shielding, because a lot of the time when I make ghosts, people go, "Oh no, don't get shielding yet, because you're gonna transition out of ghosts."
And by people, he's talking about myself.
No, people leave that in the comments a lot too. I think that's like a misconception with
The reason
ghosts.
the reason that I tell you that all the time is because you will often pick up ghost shielding after you've already lost a bunch of ghosts. Because like I mean, if you know, with cars it's different because he knows how to micro the ghost and he's not going to lose all of his ghosts.
Well, no, what I'm saying is Kaz is getting the upgrade beforehand because he's intending to stay in Ghosts for an extended period, whereas you're saying don't get the upgrade because you're going to transition out of them. It doesn't matter whether or not you've lost them, because Kaz is saying you should stay in them for, well, 80 pop, which, you know, almost I never see.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're really good units, and since Sean has so few minis, I'm guessing he's just double gen right now, and I'm fine with that because Ghosts do pretty well against Hogs.
Yeah, yeah. And also Ghosts, something that we should note is that Ghosts are really good against vehicle heroes like the Tundra Bison and the Forge Hog. The Rams that you can get down are absolutely insane.
We like to not talk about that right now because it would help cars.
I mean, does me saying that help Kaz? Does he not already know that, Sean?
This is true. This is also true.
This is for the benefit of the ladies and gentlemen watching this wonderful video.
Mostly just gentlemen.
Mostly just gentlemen, that's right. Shout out to Lonnie, though.
Lonnie, how are you?
How's it going, Lonnie?
So I'd say this is generally a lot more simple than playing a Brute Banished because I mean, you just have these OP Ghosts to do whatever you want.
So when it comes to having mass Ghosts, what are you watching out for here? What would be the biggest oh shit moment for the Ghosts?
If he had a Forge Hog and he anvil around me and then I sat in a Scatter Bomb, that would be the end of that.
So that's basically bad timing, not micro in, and maybe getting caught with your pants down. So you just want to be splitting your units, really.
You just want to be keeping an eye on them,
right?
Really.
Okay.
And also you want to save your Conduit proc for when they use their leader powers.
Yeah.
So that you can kind of negate some of the damage. Give yourself that speed boost. Yeah.
The enemy has sent ground troops to attack.
So we can see that Red has expoed, and in a moment like this, would we want to focus on the units, the expo, or the hero? Like, out of those three things, what would you rather take out?
The hero, for sure.
Okay. And it doesn't look like you're using the Rams yet, which is interesting. You're going to wait for the shields.
Yep. They do less damage to the shields. They do more damage to the actual health.
Interesting. And as this fight takes place, we're always building Ghosts in the background on all of your minis and the main.
Yep.
And
And since he used heavy metal, I just left, and I'm gonna go back in.
yeah, very
Once
good.
it's gone.
And heavy metal's pretty much the only thing that can really stop the Rams killing a hero. If that was the Bison, it would be dead.
Augmented harvester upgrade complete.
I'm also gonna Expo on Tech 1 here, since I have the eco to do it.
Constructed.
Yep. So you want to prioritize the Expo before T2, is that right?
If you can, you do.
Okay.
Since I've got 11 ghosts here, I'm feeling pretty safe.
Okay.
Still
okay.
don't want to neglect turrets, so I'm gonna build a couple of those as well.
Ghost.
Mostly
Definitely.
just for a leader power progression.
And would we be in a position here to take an offensive Expo, or is that only a thing that you do with fortifications as Trox?
Yeah, I'd mainly recommend just buying on your side. When you're Trox, it's a bit different because it's so expendable.
Okay. And I assume you've gone raid 2 here. If you,
I'm Arby.
I know, but if you were Shippy, you would have gone raid 2.
Yes.
Constructed.
Because that's one of the main differences, isn't it? T1 with Arby.
I'd say so, yeah. So now I'm gonna just go straight into my hero. Want to be able to get him out because Tech 2 RB hero is super good. And I'm gonna keep building ghosts on Tech 2 because, like I said, they're very good units.
Now,
That
so something
doesn't
that I've
change.
noticed you've not done, Kaz. Now there may be a reason behind it, or I don't know. Why haven't you been dropping the plasma mines to conduit your ghosts?
I'm just waiting for a scatter bomb or something
Harvester constructed.
so that
Leader
you know I can
point
get
earned.
out of it faster.
Boundary
Oh,
constructed.
okay. So that's more useful
Ready to
for the
scout.
speed boost rather than the damage boost.
I'm under enemy
It is good for damage. It's just that if you don't have to lose all your ghosts, you don't want to. So
Okay. And you're using the rams on the warthogs there, or are you just doing that because you can?
Yeah, they're pretty good against
Stronghold
vehicles.
complete.
Okay.
Their vehicles
It's
are
quite
something
surprising to see how long you've extended into Ghosts, and that's kind of what I was saying about the Ghost shielding thing. It's kind of like, well, yeah, this is worth the investment because it isn't just a T1 proposal. You know, it's going to be the whole game.
Yep.
So in a sense, these kind of replace the JPBs and the Chosen if we were to combine the two previous builds into, you know, one comparison. The Ghosts replace the bulk of the other two builds.
Yeah, I'd say so. You want to obviously play around your strengths, and I think Ghosts are a big strength.
Turret complete.
Yeah. It's interesting that Conduit isn't making as much of a play in this build. I thought that would be for sure one of the things that you'd use to wipe armies faster, but that's a surprise.
Well, earlier on, I would have, but he didn't really have an army at the early stages of the game, and now that he has third point, I'd rather just hold on to it.
Yeah. Well, it's Sean we're talking about. What do you expect?
Marauder reporting for duty.
I thought Sean would rise to that. He didn't. And because you
I'm
know,
stressing out.
yeah, and because you know that he's expoed and he's got a garage on there, he's mixing in hunters, and you would do the same thing if you saw an air pad. So basically, just reinforcing the Ghost army with whatever counter units you need at this point in the game, and NGs. I assume you've got coming up as well on that air pad.
Yep. And making sure I'm getting my third gen as well. And now I kind of want to take an engagement because I still have all these Ghosts, but
Yeah.
I don't want to do it under the turrets.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's going to become less of a target for you. The Expo is more of a send your units there to lose them kind of thing.
Yeah, no, since I don't really want the Ghosts anymore, I can just kind of send them in, get rid of them.
Now, is it not like a strategic error to do a really strong T1, T2 build with Ghosts, which are vehicles transitioning into Marauder? Is that not a problem?
I don't think so, because you've got your RB hero, which is very good at countering counter units, just like the Chosen.
Yeah, yeah. So would you double back here, or would you still keep going for the Expo?
I'm gonna keep going for the Expo.
Yep, because you've got that stasis that can.
And I've got Enforcer drop too.
Yep, and you're still building Marauders and Hunters. And he's going to be a long way off killing that base because you've got the turrets and the stasis. And you're getting your conduit off on the base there. Very nice. Looks like you've got an NG coming out on that Expo as well. That might be able to extend its life a little bit more.
Turret improved.
But of course you want to sack once you're that low.
Yeah. So the play now is go to his main. That's surprising. I thought you'd be doubling back. But you do have all of the minis to continue pumping units on as well, so losing the Expo isn't necessarily the end of the world. Although it is a bit inconvenient.
Yeah, I've still got my Enforcers alive, so I'm still okay with playing offense.
Yeah.
RB's really good at taking out Kodiaks. That's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah.
Turret improved.
So as for the base turrets on the red base, would you be targeting those with the RB after the Kodiaks are dead, or are we kind of just maining down pads here?
Yeah, definitely the turrets, because I don't have that big of an army here, and if I don't deal with them, they're gonna deal with me.
Our base is under attack.
So Sean, you didn't tech straight into Warthogs because you had a fairly early Expo, is that right?
Power ready.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I feel like this is going a way I didn't expect.
Yeah, it's Forge can be a little bit tough to deal with when you're RB.
Our allies
Yep.
are in danger.
So would this have been different if you were the Shippy? Would you be in a similar scenario here, or would Shippy have got you out of this?
Oh, Ship has spirit support, and also Raid 2 helps a lot.
Yeah. And now you're in real trouble because of the Grizzly drop.
I am.
Leader power ready.
So
I am up against an enemy vehicle. Turret
I
improved.
think from watching this, what I would say is the drawback of this ghost build is the lack
Our
of
base is under
building
attack.
killers, because the majority of your army is mixed in with it is just ghosts with not very many enforcers mixed in, or JPBs
Yeah,
if you were
you can always sprinkle in enforcers though.
There you have it. So, if this was going more your way, would you have said that the mass ghost was less good than mass JPB
We
in this
must have
instance?
power. Our base is under
Uh,
attack.
I mean,
Leader power ready.
More importantly, is Sean a top tier player?
I'd say Ghost is still better. It's just you have to recognize what's going on. You notice I didn't really scout in that game,
Yeah.
and I said that I imagine he's double gen and he's just gonna tech. But what he was doing, he had a forge hog, he had grenade throw marines, and he was just getting an expo up.
Right. Yeah.
Because
So-
I didn't get too many minis.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, what are the caveats of this build that we need to highlight, Sean?
Yeah, so RB versus ship. It sounds like they're kind of similar in the early game, right? Cars, you're going ghosts. Ghosts is usually the safe bet because of how good they are. With ship, caveat being you can get raid 2 and basically hold on to all of the nodes at all times, even into the late game. And then RB ghosts are also very good because conduit is good and ghosts are OP. With smaller maps, RB has amazing building killers, so you can kind of do a RBR, like you do on Frontier, Armory on the main, Barracks on a mini, and then that one time I saw you actually switch that Armory on the main to another Rax, so you were double pumping Enforcer, plus you were pumping Grunts for nodes, and you had the Hero, which is a very good Tech 1 build for RB on small maps, it seems. With
Yeah, I'd
Shippy,
just say that generally when you're playing RB, you should stay away from the Tech 1 hero, but it can still be good. It's just that it requires a lot of micro, because if you don't have good micro, chances are it's just going to be running in your all unit blob doing nothing. And that's
Right.
why I recommend like staying away from melee heroes if you don't have the, pretty good micro.
Gotcha. And then what's an alternative for ship? Because I know some people just build a ton of grunts in Tech 1 instead of going ghost.
I'd say generally your three options are teching, so getting the nodes pretty quickly with your elite grunts and having 2 generators, and then going into a counter ball, spamming ghost, or you just build your hero, which you can do hero 5th, or you can have a double gen behind it and build your hero off of your mini.
A little bit
That
later.
also works. Yeah.
And you typically want to do that against Banished more, right? Because they're not going to have snipers, and you're essentially going to force them to either build NGs or upgrade their chops or ghosts.
Yeah, I don't think NGs are really an option because you have elite grunts, which they'll just pop the NGs like balloons.
Right. Gotcha. And then as you're getting into Tech 2 with RB and ship, what are you doing similarly, and what are you doing differently with them?
It's mainly just Marauder, I'd say, with both of them. With RB, I think you have an option for early Phantoms, but I wouldn't go them any earlier than like 4th point. Some people do 3rd point Phantoms if they have like a heavy Tech 1 and they've got Enforcers left over, but that requires a lot of micromanagement, putting them in the Phantoms, flying them around, harassing. So generally, I'd just recommend going Marauders, and then like I did, sprinkling in some counter units for whatever they're building, and of course Engineers.
Gotcha. Are there any variations of this? Like, can you just go? I know like some people with Chippy will just go super strong counter ball, right? With maybe some locusts mixed in until they can get to Tech 3, and then others with like RB, they love their enforcers, and you just keep pumping enforcer, maybe along with whatever counter units you need.
Yeah, I think going RB's champion on Tech 2 is a viable way to play, but you do have to be spamming them and
Mhm.
just sending them around the map, kind of using them in the same ways as Dark Skies. They're just not as mobile because, once again, they don't have the jump. But I'd say
They
it's
are,
still
but
more.
they would you say they're easier because you can hold ground and so that all unit
Yeah, them
kings.
being ranged is helpful. And I'd
Yeah,
say they're still better than like Goliaths on Tech 2, just because they have an upgrade and Goliaths don't.
gotcha.
Yeah. So
Um,
that's still a viable option.
and then T3 is just Wraith, I assume, or with RB you can go Phantoms.
Yep, Wraith, Reaver, NG, or Phantom. I'd say in addition to Phantom, you want to sprinkle in Banshees. A lot of the time, what people do with Phantoms is just pack them full of Hunters and then build Banshees with them.
Gotcha. And the Banshees are probably really, really useful for other air as well.
Yep, other air, you want the Tech 3 upgrade, and then for killing bases.
Yeah, that's actually a really good call because usually with Phantoms I've been building Reavers, but I'm now realizing that Banshees would be way better.
Yeah, it also helps your army be more mobile.
Right. What are you doing with the heroes for both Tech 1? Yeah, for both heroes, Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3.
Um, like I said, for the most part on Tech 1, you avoid the RB hero. With the Honor Guard, it's really good at taking out other heroes because if there's no detect, it's just a free kill. You can also just slap minis or a generator or something like that, or take out other high value targets like snipers. Um, and then Tech 2, you just kind of keep doing the same thing. Once you're Tech 3, you can even take on Wraiths super easily.
Right.
Just cut off reinforcements.
I
With
think
the
the
Tech
one.
2 RB,
Sorry, go ahead.
you want to run around with him and kind of do the same thing, but you also have Enforcer drop. So
Yep.
if there's an undefended base, you just run in and Enforcer drop, and you can strip all their generators if they don't have anything for it.
I was just gonna say that, yeah. With RB, even on, I mean, Tech 3 is just insane when he gets the shield, but with Enforcer drop on a UNSC base, you can pretty much strip the whole thing. I mean, they would need like 3 Gales and 3 anti-infantry turrets to be able to stop that. It's pretty much broken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and then what about maps? Or I'm sorry, you know what? Let's cover caveats against UNSC or Banished first. How do elites approach a UNSC versus a Banished?
Well, against other elites, typically it's just all ghost.
Yeah,
So RB versus RB, or RB versus ship, it's just ghosts.
all day long.
Uh,
Yep.
yep. And then versus UNSC, obviously you want to scout. If they're going infantry, you add Suies. If they're going for like jackrabbits, ghosts are still good. A lot of the time, leaders that have Spartan heroes will go rabbit Spartan against you, and that's actually pretty good against ghost. And what you do against that is you just add your hero. So you go ghost RB versus
Mhm.
jackrabbit Spartan.
And the
And
hero would go against the jacks or the hero itself.
typically you want to target their other hero.
Okay. And you would
Yeah.
be macro in the oh no, sorry, no, yeah, you were going against the jackrabbits. I was going to say you would macro the jackrabbits, but they're not yours.
You're
Yeah.
pretty much ignoring the jackrabbits until the hero's dead because you can slam with the ghosts while your RB or Shippy is hitting the hero.
Yeah, because the slams does the debuff on the hero, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
and well,
And you
and
can
stops him
cancel
from
the
moving.
slam if you time it good.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and against like brute banished, some will try and go for shrapnel mines, grunts against your ghosts, which can be good. So just make sure you add Suies against that. Otherwise, the only thing you have to watch out for is if they play chopper, just don't engage before you have shields, because you'll
Yeah.
lose.
And at what point are you getting the shield upgrade? Is that like a universal get this before the 2 minute mark or whatever, or does that kind of depend on what you're going
Generally,
against?
I'd recommend, do your first pad upgrade like you always do, and then just upgrade one extra pad to help you in the blue department because ghosts aren't super cheap,
Mm-hmm.
and then get your shield upgrade just whenever you have enough for it.
So once 2 pads and of course your generator are upgraded, then as soon as you have the money, do it.
Yep.
And you ideally want to, you'll get the upgrade on your main, of course, while ghosts are still pumping from the minis.
Yeah. And just buy up as many minis as you feel comfortable. Of course, don't open yourself up to a cheese. You want to scout, but generally elites are pretty difficult to rush because of just how good those ghosts are. So you can be
Gotcha.
pretty liberal with your mini buying.
And then, do you think there's any difference in army comp between UNSC or Banished, or do all the things we already talked about apply?
I'd say it's pretty much the same. Just
Gotcha.
Marauders are the baseline, and then sprinkle in counters and
Okay.
NGs, of course.
And then map specifics, we've already kind of covered this, but small maps, you're usually going really heavy on the ghosts, sprinkling in Sui, sprinkling in your hero if you want to, or some of the other builds we already covered. Big maps, you almost always want to double gen, um, you know, take control of all the nodes, and then on top of that, you can still build ghosts and other units if you want. But a big map should always be double gen, pretty much.
Yeah, I'd say mainly those maps are Rift and Bedrock. And that's mainly not even because of their size, just the positioning of the mini bases. They're all behind your base. So as long as you path well, you're not going to get mini stolen, and you can get a pretty quick tech unpunished.
Gotcha. And you have the minis to build Suis and ghosts if you still need to after double genning.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then what about leader powers? So I think we know pretty much what the main things are, right? With Chippy, you usually go raid 1, and then you go raid 2 if you're pumping a lot of ghosts. You go extract if you're going honor guard. You've got beam, then you've got spirit support. Those I think that's all pretty easy, makes sense to everyone. What about after spirit support? Are you doing displacement, mass cloaking?
Yeah, it's always displace 5th.
Okay.
And then from there on, it's kind of whatever the situation calls for. Like if you don't have raid 2 yet, and you're going tech 3, it might be a good time to go raid 2 for your wraiths.
Yep. Makes sense.
Otherwise, like mass cloaking is good. Or
Gotcha.
upgrading beam, if you want to do like a displaced beam combo.
Or display scout mine.
Which we're a big fan of course.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
with RB,
yep.
it's always mines and then conduit. That doesn't change.
Yep.
I'd say almost always your third point is conduit 2, and then the fourth point is variable. I held my fourth point that last game for a while. It's just between stasis and drop. And then fifth point, I'd say whichever one you didn't get, that's the one you go for. Unless you don't see an opening for drop. If someone's just like sitting on their base, then it doesn't make sense to get sometimes. And at that point, I'd recommend going for mass stasis, because the double stasis is huge. You can just cancel out half their army for basically the entire duration of the engagement. So.
Gotcha. And then of course Phantom if you want.
Yeah,
I think
Phantom
RB is pretty
eventually.
simple. Yep. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I think that's everything I had.
There we go.
Nice.
That's how you play elites, ladies and gentlemen.